My name is Dermot Kavanagh. I'm an artist, tutor and demonstrator, and I've presented 74 how to paint programs for the BBC called Awash with Colour. Over the next couple of hours I'm going to show you how to do a watercolour painting from the initial sketch to the finishing touches and pass on lots more new tips and tricks of the trade. So I hope you are settled in and you're going to enjoy the demonstration tonight. Let's have a little look at the scene first. It's, as I say, a lovely composition, a few old houses with a few boats in the foreground. And I'll talk to you for a moment or two about these pieces of paper that I have in front of me. Whenever I sent the email to you, there was a downloadable sketch. You can print those out on 2 A4 pages and then trim them. And that should give you a piece of paper to sketch from that is exactly the same size as your watercolor paper. I've also sent you the knitting pattern, as I call it. It's the mixes for the washes that I'm going to be using, and they're all itemized here. The materials that you need, brushes, paper, and step-by-step guide to the washes. Now, the first thing I want to do here is talk to you briefly about the colors. I'm using those for years. Cerulean blue. Look at how grainy and granulating the cerulean blue is. It's a very heavy pigment, so the heavy pigment sinks into the davits on the paper, where a light pigment like Winsor yellow won't sink. The more colors you have, the more confusing painting is. We're going to start and paint the sky. So the sky is going to be made from 2 washes. Rule of thumb is, if there's a lot going on down here, don't have much going on up there. And get it mid-strength. And into that now I'm going to put some cerulean blue, give it a bit more body. Cerulean blue and Winsor blue together is a wee bit like cobalt blue. The secret to a sky working for you is keeping it wet long enough. There was a couple of people asked me during the week about cauliflowers and how would they prevent them. They don't put it on as if you're painting a door. Put it on haphazardly in a sort of a blustery, billowing brush stroke, pulling in, leaving a negative white shape. Now I must say, the paintings that you've been sending me all weeks, for the last couple of weeks now, your skies have been wonderful. You have really excelled yourselves in the skies that you've been sending to me on Facebook and through email, because I've been very impressed. So you need to always try and show recession in the sky. I'm just going to dry that brush now. Take all the colour out and look at how I've wrecked the brush. It looks as if it destroyed it. But that brush is perfect now for blending, because you don't want to take the interest or the attention away from the buildings and this focal point here. You want to keep this really simple. I don't want to put too much in because I want to keep this very sunlit. That's the first one. Let's see what that looks like. Pull this in. And there we go. It's a lovely warm stone colour. Don't need to take that raw sienna out of that brush because it's not really doing any harm. There was hardly anything left in it anyway. And washing your brush sometimes can be more trouble than it's worth. Oh, that's better there. That's a nice Indian yellow. You can buy that. It's about $6.50. But sure, if you can make it, you don't need to buy it. I'll drop this in just willy-nilly. That's a technical term for putting it here, there and everywhere. And then I'm going into the green. Take off the excess so that I don't have too much on the brush, and this is going to go in streaks. I'm not worried too much about blending yet. I'm just coming tighter there so that you can see that closer up, and I can move this across. You see the reveal there? That's the wall coming into the window frame. That has to be done as well. And down this side, dipping again. Have you a question, Maria?
I have.
Right.
A lady called Linda.
Yes.
She wants to know, does the paint palette keep the paint wet or does it dry out?
The paint palette dries out, but if you put enough water in, it's going to stay wet for a long time. But even your washes, Linda, even your washes do dry out. It's just a matter of wetting them again. Some people choose to paint on a plate and all the washes run into one another and it's hard to keep them separated. So I tend to use a palette that has lots of mixing space. And you see these deep wells at the top? Those are for large washes and they will stay wet for a long time, where these ones here are for smaller washes and they tend to dry out a lot quicker. And then the flat plates are for medium-sized washes. And it's good to have a mixture of all of those so that every palette space isn't the same. They all have different reasons for being. So this is back into the first wash again, and here that brush is a wee bit overloaded because there's a small space. Take some of the wash off. There's nothing worse than trying to fill a space with the brush and not having enough room to offload the brush, and you finish up chasing a puddle around the place, and then you get a cauliflower. There's a lot in this painting, isn't there? So I'm going to rush through it and tell you as many tips and hints and tricks of the trade as I can as I go. But sure, whenever we get it finished, we get it finished. I'm sure you're not in any rush tonight, so it'll give me more chance to talk to you. Go ahead, Maria, another question.
Yeah, question from a lady called Nuala.
Yes?
She wants to know about the water. So do you need to change your water at any time during painting? Or can it affect your color mix?
Very good question, Nuala. I tend to use a big bucket of water. You can see it there. It's a beach bucket, and that holds about 2 litres of water. Now, if you use a big bucket like that, you don't have to change your water at all from the start to the finish. Back to the painting here, just till we get this blended. You don't need to change your water at all. If you're using a small jar of water, like a jam jar or something that size, then you need to change your water a couple of times during a painting because it would get very, very dirty. You hear people saying, oh, have a clean jar and a dirty jar, and have them sitting beside each other, and use one for mixing, the clean jar for mixing, and the dirty jar for washing. But to be honest with you, I finish up in the dirty jar when I'm supposed to be going into the clean jar, and I finish up in the clean jar when I'm supposed to be going into the dirty jar, and I finish up half the time in my coffee as well. So better just to have a big bucket, and then you don't need to change it at all. But tighten that shot so you can see where exactly I'm doing this. There we go. Can you see the granulation? That's perfect. It just, the red and the blue separate. They hate each other. That's exactly what that is. So now I've got the green on the brush here, and I'm going to put this on. There we go. At the bottom. This is the number 5 brush. The quicker you get this on, the better. See, it's all coming together, isn't it? And I better zoom out on my palette here. Give me a shot of the palette there, Cathal, and I'll just widen this shot too. Try and get it all into. There we go. A wee bit wider, you can see more of the bucket. Ray, have you another question?
Yeah.
Right.
A gentleman called Kevin says your colours are always, they harmonise really well. Is that instinct, or is there some tricks or combinations to avoid? Right.
If you want your painting to hang together and keep it in harmony, the best thing to do is to use the same colours in your painting palette over and over and over again. And the thing is, I use 12 colours. A lot of people would maybe have more than that. I used to have maybe 30, 40 sometimes, but I realised that every painting looked terrible because there was too many colours in the mix. So if you try and keep your colours to a minimum and get used to using the same colours all the time, then everything you do will have a harmony to it. As long as the colours that you're mixing do work well together. A lot of colours don't go together. You can't have, for instance, a cadmium yellow and French ultramarine. Better to have Winsor yellow and French ultramarine, because cadmium yellow and French ultramarine, if you mix them together, they give you mud. So I would tend to steer away from cadmium yellow and use the Winsor yellow. But if I do need cadmium yellow, then I can use Winsor yellow with a little bit of crimson. Now, on the website that I was talking to you about, that's coming out in a couple of weeks, there's a massive colour mixing section on that, and it'll take you through a lot of the intermixes that I would use in a very structured way, so that you'll be able to practice that for yourself. And it's amazing how quickly you can get your colours to hang together and look harmonious if you're using the mixes that you're used to and that are made from colours that really, really do complement each other. Now, let's get back to the mixing. This is nothing more than just a wee skim of horizontal lines. We can leave a wee bit of white there too in places, because why would there not be a bit of light reflecting off the pools of water lying in the bottom of the harbour floor? That's that second wash on. You can see that's quite light. But then I told you that we needed a darker muddy colour. So I'm going into that now. There's not so much on the brush this time because I don't want as much of this as I had of that other one. And I'm going to put this on while that underlying wash is still wet. Just let it bleed. Funny, I was listening to that album the other night, and it was 1969, the Let It Bleed album, the Rolling Stones. And now this is Windsor Yellow and a wee bit of French Ultramarine. I hope you're enjoying the knitting patterns, as I call them, these sheets that I'm giving you, with all the washes on. It's a bit like following a knitting pattern. So I hope you're finding them useful, because they do sort of keep you on the right track. A wee bit more darkness. Darkness on the edge of town. Yes, Bruce Springsteen. That was his 1978 album, Darkness on the Edge of Town. So now let's go and mix up some shadows. Don't let your brush run out, because once your brush runs out, then you get hard edges. So I'm lifting that as quick as I can and putting it on again and pulling down. You need to be fast with shadows, because you don't want to let them dry, because if you start getting bleed back, then you get all sorts of horrible things happening. And if it's sunny outside and you make it dark inside, then you create a fantastic contrast. I'm going to stop talking for a minute, and I'll put this in as quickly as possible. Now I need to hold my breath. Sorry for going all quiet, but you can't talk and hold your breath at the same time. There. That has created a window. Let's pull out. Just widen that shot. There we go. Blue doors, red doors, and it's given a nice light to the whole thing. There's another rope coming this way, and another one going the other way, down to those hooks there, hoops, and then a bit of detailing here, and that's just the end of that rigger dancing about over the paper. And we need a couple of birds, one there and maybe one in the distance there. That just gives a wee bit of life to it. Oh, why not put one over there as well? There we go. That's enough. And I can't think, you could fiddle away at it, but is it really making it any better, or is it just fiddling? Paint along with the video, pause it, rewind it, watch it as many times as you want, and that's the overall scene there, with a nice clean edge. We have a nice sky, soft and subtle, buildings on the right, stone and white with nice shadows, a couple of boats in the foreground, 3 boats in the foreground, harbour wall, and a bit of water lying in the floor of the harbour. Well, listen folks, I have thoroughly enjoyed doing the demonstration for you. I hope you have enjoyed watching it. If you have enjoyed it, please leave me some feedback. You can leave your comments if you want on Facebook. I have a post up there today. You can just put your comments up there. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope to get you back again some other time. I promise you that I won't be doing buildings in the next one. We'll try and keep it a lot more atmospheric and more interesting skies and foregrounds. So check in the next time with me. Thank you very much for watching, and speak to you soon. Bye.